Hey everybody, welcome back inside the Stash Report from the Stash Project. This is going to be our April 2020 compilation video. I will say as a caveat up front, obviously the kits that we're mentioning here are the kits that we expect for the month of April 2020. Unlike the other months where I say expect and just go on with it like, ha 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 ha, expect, because we're going to get them. These are the kits that we expect for the month of April 2020. If you're watching this from the future, e.g. you're coming into this channel past COVID and, remember what was going on this month. So, again, these are the kits that we expect. As far as I know, as I make this video the first weekend of April, these kits are holding steady as what will be released. There were a few kits from Aoshima from the month of March that were not released that were pushed to April. That was just due to getting a few pieces and parts done due to the supply chain issues, but those kits are also supposed to come out this month. So again, hopefully we'll get most or if not all of this out by the end of the month. So starting on the domestic side of things, there are only sort of 3 known kits for April, as I do not believe that Revell specifically has anything that they are planning to release this month. As we covered in the last Stash Report weekly video, several of the kits that were destined to sort of be April kits by Revell in terms of the 68, the 69-inch Vel from the 68 tool and the other kits, those have been pushed back to July, if you haven't seen that video yet. So those kits are no longer coming in April. So these are, again, the 3 kits that we are expecting so far. I believe there actually might be a 4th kit. I believe Salvinos has another kit that's ready to ship. They did a live video I haven't had a chance to watch yet, but I believe there's another kit for April coming out of that as well. So over at Round 2, 2 releases. Now I know they did their April video and it had several kits in it, but several of those kits are also not so far, unless they update it again this week, on the distribution list. If they do, we'll let you know. But as of right now, the 2 kits are the 1927 Ford Model T Vintage Police Kit. It's a 2-in-1. You can build a factory stock or you can build the police kit. There are some, I think it's a Frontenac engine accessories to make sort of a, sports flathead, if you will, a more powerful flathead. Those parts I know are being looked forward to by several people I know, specific, unrelated to the kit, just to have the Frontenac engine parts. Otherwise, the kit is the same as it has always been. It's been a little while since it's been reissued, although it has been hinted as being reissued several times on several of the police vehicle boxes that they've done, the Chevy police van and the I think it was also on the side of the reissue of the 70 Impala Fire Chief, as they're sort of touting these public service vehicles. Always were listed under vintage kits that weren't coming back. But if you've paid attention to any time they've thrown vintage kits on the side of a box art, eventually those vintage kits have been reissued. So this one would be one of those that is finally getting reissued. And the other kit for round 2 this month would be from MPC, and it is the Taco Trike, which is the second of the 6 of the Trick Trike kits. So that is going to get another reissue. Again, much like the original one, if you're missing one of the 6 or you're just starting this collection all over again, this will be the second one. The other domestic kit that we have coming in for sure is from Salvinos JR, and that is the Gatorade liveried Monte Carlo, the new one with the flat nose. It is Bobby Allison's car. I can't remember what 1982 race this is supposed to be in terms of what it is there, but that has a new nose piece tooled into the older monogram 124 scale NASCAR kit. They, of course, just reissued what is an 83, 84 Hardee's car not too terribly long ago. So this is, like I said, a newly tooled front end piece for that older kit. And also, in the background there, I was looking. The other kit that Salvinos will be says that they will be shipping out in April is the first of the Pontiac Grand Prix Aero. I think it's 2+2. I knew there was a word for it there. It's lost my mind. The 2+2 for 1984, and that will be a Richard Petty liveried vehicle. So that's nothing too surprising there. They have made, or excuse me, it's 86 Pontiac Grand Prix 2+2 Aero Coupe. Ah, there we go. Now we got the name down. But again, it's going to be Richard Petty livery. Not surprising at all, because one of the things that Salvinas JR has put forth as one of their desires is to make basically all of the cars that Richard Petty ran from the 1960s to the basically the end of his career in the 1990s. So that'll be another one of those. For people who are not familiar with that kit, that is going to be a completely new tool body for the old sort of G-body chassis that Monogram made that's underneath the Regal and the Monte Carlo. So that is going to be the first one of those. Mike's Decals was offering a blank one that was came with no decals. Obviously, you had the opportunity to pick up decals through Mike's Decals. This one will have livery in it again. Yes, the infamous, famous STP livery for Richard Petty. So moving over to Japan, there are a few things here and there. Tamiya will be reissuing the Toyota Celica Supra as the Long Beach Grand Prix Marshal car. I know that kit is coming because certain places have already gotten it in. If you're here in North America, this kit should have been something we would have gotten already, except of course for the problem with Tamiya USA being closed. Now, Tamiya USA did reopen their online store right before the end of the month, back there in March. So if they got it in, you might be able to ship it directly through them. I don't know if that means that their warehouse is back open or not, but that's something to keep an eye on. I know that Hong Kong already has that kit in stock, so it is something that has been produced. It is done. It just needs to be distributed. Fujimi, several things that were scheduled for earlier this year have been delayed into April, and as of last look, they're still scheduled for April. So we're going to list them as being the 17-inch Oz racing wheels, the 1/12 scale Nissan GTR R32, and the 1/12 scale Nissan GTR R32 Calsonic Group A race car. So I know a lot of people were waiting on that Calsonic car. It was supposed to come out back in February, and like I said, last time we've seen it, it was delayed for April, and it is still listed as being April. Over at Hasegawa, they are continuing sort of business as usual, reissuing the Lamborghini Miura Superveloce with a detail upset that is going to have photo etch for the little eyelashes that go around the headlights, as well as the front intake grills and the side intakes. And that's going to be molded in sort of a lime greenish color. Reissue of the Lancia Stratos HF rally car for the 1979 San Remo winning car. This will have a different set of wheels and tires, a off-road sort of dirt track. They're narrower tires than are in the normal Stratos, but it does not come with all of the parts to make it exactly look like the box art car. The box art car has some auxiliary lights that are not included in the kit, so keep that in mind. Reissue of the Jaguar XJR9 IMSA Sprint. So this will be the Castrol-sponsored XJR9. Remember, the XJR9 outside of IMSA was sponsored by Silk Cut. So here in the United States, it's sponsored by Castrol. This is a different format of the car than ran at Daytona, because Daytona obviously is a endurance race and a long-term race, a 24-hour race. Part of, I'm not sure what it was called back then. I would have to look. It might still be in the Camel GT challenge back then. But right now it will be called the Michelin Endurance Challenge, which is the 24 hours of Daytona, the 12 hours of Sebring, the 6 hours of Watkins Glen, and the Petit Le Mans. Those races would have had a different configuration, sort of an endurance configuration like they ran at Le Mans. The IMSA races, which in the 1980s were really short races. There were some sprint races at IMSA that were 45 minutes long. The schedule was much longer back then than it is right now, where sprint races are like 3 hours long. So this kit is the sprint formation that deletes part of the headlight out. I'm not necessarily sure, because it says the literature says kit parts not exactly the same as the photographs. So I'm thinking that probably there is not a second set of headlights for this kit, in the sense of deleting out the endurance lights, because if you start looking at these Group C cars, they have 4 headlights in endurance format and only 2 in sprint formats. Why, if you get certain Hasegawa kits, they'll have 4 headlights under certain circumstances, 2 headlights on the other. Really, it's a deletion of pieces from the completed version you're building rather than it is anything in the kit. You just don't put 2 headlights into the headlight backing piece. So I've been interested to see. I meant to, but I forgot to get out an XJR9 and see if it can be configured that way, or if there's just going to basically be a decal that you place over the headlight lens piece that sort of deletes the second headlight. But at any rate, that's coming back out. That car did win one race in the IMSA Sprint Series, and that was the last race of the year. So technically, you can still build a podium winner out of it. Another kit's coming back out is the Toyota 88C in its IMSA format for the 1989 24 Hours of Daytona. This was a team called All American Racing, which is hilarious considering they raced Toyotas, but they did race Toyotas for many years before and afterwards. And that car did not particularly do all that great, but it is a very easy way for them to reissue a kit. It is something that has been done in the past. It's been many years since this livery has been released. It's not a whole heck of a lot to the livery per se, but it's been a very, very long time since it's seen the light of day. Probably the 1990s was the last time that kit was reissued. It may have gotten one of them 2000s, but certainly in the 1990s. Then you have a reissue of the Advan liveried Lancer Evo 6 in the 1999 Rally Cantabara winning car. Now, the Rally Cantabara is part of the Asian Pacific Rally. This kit, again, is one of the more expensive rally reissues that Hasegawa has decided to do. I'm assuming between the Advan and the sort of oddball rally series. APRN is not exactly something that Hasegawa did a whole heck of a lot of. It's APRC, excuse me, that Hasegawa did a lot of. They did a few. I think there's probably 4 or 5, and a couple of them are Lancer 1 and Lancer 2s, which for whatever reason have never been reissued. I don't know if the Lancer 2 was modified into the Lancer 3, and that's why we've never gotten the street or the rally versions of the original Lancer and the Evo 2. Maybe they're in the vault someplace. That would be a nice little treat for later this year. Finally get those kits back out. But in the meantime, that's coming back out. They're going to reissue the PKW K1 Kubelwagen Type S2 with a Resin Blonde Girl. So this is a continuation of that Resin Girl All the Things and Resin Girl Sexy Military Figure thing. Now the difference between this kit and the one that came out a few years ago with the Eggplant Girls is this one is going to have the off-road tires. The Eggplant Girls version is a North Africa version. It has big like sand float tires. If you don't know what that is, look it up. But they look like giant inner tubes, basically. If you're familiar with trucks at all, float tires are those great big ones that are put on the front steer axles of trucks that go off-road. Same sort of principle. This reissue is going to be molded in, I believe, a darker olive drab green compared to the tan of the North Africa sand version, and it is going to have the actual off-road tire, sort of a Jeep style tire rather than having big high float tires. So depending on where you were with the Kubelwagen and which one you wanted, this may be something you want to consider getting. The high float tires were kind of a little bit I don't want to say pointless, but they were not exactly what a lot of people were expecting when when that kid got reissued with the resin figure, I don't think. Then you're going to get a straight reissue of the Hasegawa Civic VTI ETI, a straight reissue of the Toyota Celica 2000 GT with its Resin Girl figure. This was one of the first of the Resin Girl figure kits that they did last year, so it's getting a reissue. And then the 1977 Lancia Stratos Safari Rally kit is going to make another comeback, and that represents the third place car. It's an Italia livery, looks basically like the Monte Carlo rally car, except it has a very large brush guard on the front, and the spare tire is mounted to like a tire rack that sits on the roof of the vehicle. It's very interesting in the terms of what they had to do to haul around a spare tire on a car that basically has no trunk or anything in it. And then over at Aoshima, we get a few releases this month as well. Not a terribly, nothing here is like, oh, wow, I guess, except the reissue of the Taxi Cab. That's sort of the only modified thing here, because all of these are, just reissues of stuff they've already reissued. 72 Celica 1600 GT, the 1991 Suzuki Cappuccino, the 1982 Nissan Cedric, Nissan Gloria 280 Hardtop, the 1985 Toyota Shurino N2, which is the Toyota Racing Development Nürburgring 2 body kit, the 2010 Toyota Hiace boxy style. In addition to the new supercar lineup is the 1999 Lamborghini Diablo GT and its photo etch set, and then you have the Honda Mugen AA City Turbo Silhouette. Okay, I'll give you that. The Turbo Silhouette race car is something that has not been out probably in 15, 20 years. So that's kind of an odd thing in general. It was a single make Toyota Silhouette, or a Silhouette style Group 5 looking Toyota AA, or Toyota AA, excuse me, Honda and AA. Toyota AA is a car from the 1930s. So it's, you know, it was quite an interesting race series. I don't know that the decals in here build a specific car. I mean, they build the box art car, but I don't know if that's a real legitimate car or not. There's, you know, the box art is several of them racing in a pack, so there's decals to do one of them, and then the other one is the reissue of the 2017 Toyota NTP10 taxi. This is done as a checker cab. That's a Yamasan Taxi Corporation. This is same kit as it's been. It does have a new front and rear taxi light. They look like rugby footballs, which are, you know, look like footballs, but not the soccer footballs. And then you have several straight reissues: the '83 Skyline R30 RS Aero Custom, the 2016 Toyota Crown Royal Traffic Police, and then 14-inch wheel sets. There are a whole bunch of them this month. The Yayoi, the Longchamp, the Hayashi, the Star Shark, the Kaku Tekken, the Techno Phantom, and the Formula Mesh. And then and hey, why not, right? While Aoshima is reissuing all of their various kits and new boxes, they've started a new boxing series called the Movie Mechanicals. And so the first kits in that new series are the DeLoreans from Back to the Future 1, Back to the Future 2, and Back to the Future 3. Those are three different kits, as they always have been. I would expect the Knight Rider kits to be put into this as well relatively shortly, and we'll see what else, if anything, pops into that over the course of time. But yes, those kits get reissued all the time anyway, so why not put them in a completely new boxed series? Because I guess why not? Hey, it all makes sense to somebody who clearly is making more money than I am. So anyway, guys, that wraps up what we are expecting for the month of April. Things may change as things progress with the uh, SARS-CoV-2 issues that are plaguing the entire globe at this point in time. So we'll see, again, what comes out, what doesn't. But I would think pretty much all of those things at this point should have been produced and should be ready for distribution. As we've talked about in other videos in the past, things are usually ready to go a month before they're set to release, or otherwise you'd never get them out in time. So at any rate, guys, that wraps this one up, and we'll see you guys on the other side.